Hey all, Sean here, back again with another edition of Game On Cards and Collectibles. Today I have something a little new and exciting. We've got the Mega Metal box. Yes, from 1991, collector cards. Back 30 years ago, the industry, in the music industry, was changing, which was a very interesting time in the music scene. You have a transition taking place in music, a fading of the hard rock hair band kind of metal scene, and then you also had some of the heavy metal bands going mainstream. Bands like Metallica were becoming more popular and mainstream in our culture. So it was an interesting time in 1991. You also had the emergence of grunge, or what they later called grunge, from Seattle, the Seattle scene. I thought this was quite an interesting lineup that they picked for this product, with the likes of Bon Jovi, which was a hugely popular band back at the time. Iron Maiden and Judas Priest were English metal bands that were very popular within the metal community. But then you also have some interesting bands on here that frankly I weren't very popular. Maybe were kind of had a subculture, but you also had some of your hair bands that were kind of fading out of the scene at this point, like Skid Row. And so it's an interesting collection of bands. You had Billy Squier, which honestly was really popular in the early 80s as a hard rock guy, but really by this time was not very relevant in the scene from what I can recall. So let's see what we've got here. We've got a Mega Metal like advertising card here. I'm kind of excited to see what type of different cards they have. We've got Slaughter, another band that was really popular during the hair band era of the late 80s into the early 90s. Kind of a little bio here on the individual. Here's, speaking of Billy Squier, very popular, a lot of radio play back in the early 80s. LA Guns, part of the hair band scene from the late 80s into the early 90s. Not too familiar with that band. Got some interesting cards here. You've got live footage photos of them performing in concert. Here we go. Here's Rob Halford, Judas Priest. Nice looking card. I'm actually really surprised how these are black cards. So first thing I think of is the grading. And are these cards something that I would consider sending off to get graded? And cards from the early 90s, you've got to worry about bricking, where the cards all stick together, like if you've seen my video 92 wild card decision. All right, here we've got Robert Plant. Really nice looking card there. Here's Skid Row, drummer. Yeah, really these cards, I'm surprised they're, and then you've got King Diamond here. Interesting character. I've never seen him perform, but what I've heard of is very crazy, kind of wild antics from his concert. So interesting. But I was mentioning bricking, and I'm very fortunate and thankful that these cards aren't bricking. They're coming off just like they were fresh out of a pack, from 30 years ago. So here we go. We got a Bon Jovi live in concert. Again, not thinking of them as a metal band, but I'm sure they were a tough signing and probably very costly at that time at the popularity. Here you got another Bon Jovi live in concert. Skid Row, Sebastian Bach. A lot of these bands were kind of starting to fade at this point with with the whole Seattle scene coming on. Judas Priest, solid. They really, at this time Rob Halford had moved on to his own band and done some things with a band called Fight. Oh wow, look at this one. Iron Maiden album cover. Very cool. Oh my gosh. Firehouse. Wow, look at that hair. That is amazing. That is amazing hair. Another one from Slaughter. Nice balancing act there. Very, very cool. I'm kind of excited on having this. Here's Dio. Nice. It's a weird kind of collaboration here of different bands. Vixen. You guys got nothing on Firehouse though. Come on, Vixen. This is fun. This is something. You got Mod here. Not as familiar with them, but just cool to kind of take it back in time a little bit. For me, it's cool because this was very relevant in the time where I was very influenced by music and what was going on in our culture. So again, back to the bricking. I'm very fortunate that these not only are not bricking, but because they're black cards, they're even harder to see. You got another Judas Priest here, very nice, classic pose there. Another Bon Jovi live concert photo. Hey, we got another Iron Maiden album cover. These are awesome. I hope these look as good as on the surface they look really nice, but I'm hoping that they are grade worthy for sure. Robert Plant and the band there. Formerly of the band Led Zeppelin, which is arguably one of the greatest rock bands of all time. Another photo from Skid Row. I'm, having these cards being black in the background, I am a little concerned about, the chipping around the edges and things, but honestly, these look surprisingly good. I'm really excited about that and the aspect of possibly sending some of these in. I took a look real quick. There's a Slaughter album cover for you. I took a really quick look at the pop counts and PSA, and I think less than 50 of these cards have ever been graded. So there might be an opportunity there to get some of these graded and get some low pop or possibly, pop ones, regardless of whatever grade they end up getting, which I can't see these really getting any lower than, maybe a near mint or a mint grade. So far so good, really. And again, back to the different bands they have here. I'm sure it was quite expensive to sign these different bands and get the rights to their trading cards. Here's a Judas Priest concert photo. So you've got to figure, if you were the manufacturer Impel, you had to figure that these, signing a band like Bon Jovi at the time was very expensive. I'm sure it wasn't cheap to get bands like Skid Row or, Judas Priest, like this card here. You have to figure that you had a limited budget, and a lot of it was taken up by 2 or 3 of these bands, and then you kind of had to fill out the cast, so to speak, on the set here. Here's another Iron Maiden album cover. Very cool. You got to imagine there's some Iron Maiden fans that would really like to have kind of a trading card version of their album covers that they grew up and liking and maybe one of their favorite bands. So there's a scary looking card. I'm really pleasantly surprised how well these are coming out of the package. Another Robert Plant. Skid Row. Call it a team card. Team set. Now I also hear that there's some holograms in some boxes, so that's kind of one of the things I'm also looking for. Are they have these the band holograms? Starting to see some duplicates now. There's another Vixen, all female hairband. Another Slaughter. Yeah, so these holograms, I think I read up on them that looks like there's about 10 of them that they made different for the different bands. So I'm hoping to see if I can pull one of those out of here. That's probably your only special short print insert, so to speak, if you were to refer to any type of chase card, it would be the hologram for sure. And holograms were all over the place in the early 90s. That was kind of a go-to with like Fleer, Upper Deck, all the sports cards. They were doing that kind of stuff too. Oh, here's a Bon Jovi classic photo. Another Iron Maiden. Yep. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm probably going to fast forward through some of this just to for the sake of time, so we can kind of do a recap at the end, and that way you guys can see kind of how well these, what the highlights of the pulls were, and maybe which cards I would consider sending for grading upon reviewing a little bit in more detail. Slaughter. Oh, there we got a checklist. That's kind of cool. Different card numbers within each of the bands. I'm super surprised, and the centering on these are really good also, which is really surprising. So I didn't anticipate the quality that I'm seeing here. So that's really nice to see. All right, so we're gonna do a little fast forwarding through here, see if we can find the hologram and put together a recap at the end for you guys. I appreciate y'all sticking around and checking out this video. All right, everybody. So I went ahead and finished the ripped open all the packs. Now I've got here assorted the basically the highlights of the pulls. So we'll take a look at those. Appreciate everybody sticking around. For those of you who have, we'll go over some of the better cards I found in the collection here. So this is the stack of the Bon Jovi cards. I'm going to go through these in a little bit more detail, see if there's any of these that are worth sending in for grading. Most of these have never been graded by PSA before, so they would be a low pop or pop ones possibly. There's a few in here of an iconic band from the time and very popular, so that might be worth pursuing further. We also have all the Robert Plant cards. Some of these do have been graded before, but at the same time, I'm considering sending some of these in because, frankly, they look phenomenal. There's some slight edging, it looks like, on the back, but for the most part, these cards are well centered. The surface looks great. The corners and edges look great for the most part, and so the Robert Plant cards look really nice as well. And then next here I have some assorted cards from bands like Dio, group photos, some live footage photos as well. There's a good one there of the late Ronnie James Dio. I typically have 3 to 4 of each of these, so hopefully 1 or 2 of them, out of the bunch will be grade worthy. And then here's all the Iron Maiden ones, which frankly I think are the highlight of the box. These are all part of the Iron Maiden album covers made into trading cards, so these are really nice looking. Some of them look a little better than others as far as condition, but overall very nice, and probably the coolest part, frankly, in my opinion, of the box. Every single album cover from 81 to 91 from Iron Maiden are represented in this set, so that's pretty cool. Again, for cards that are black with black borders, black background, just overall they're dark. A darker looking card actually look very, very good, and the condition looks great as well. So I'm very fortunate that didn't have any issues with the condition of these cards, being that they're over 30 years old. And then last but not least, we have the Judas Priest cards here, album covers from the album Painkiller. Then you have concert footage photos. You have an iconic Rob Halford picture there. Another live footage photo. So I just summarized by saying that overall this was a fun rip, something that takes a little bit of my nostalgia back to an earlier day of music and a different time in our music culture. And I appreciate everybody spending the time with me. Have a great day.